Books open to 5.3. 5.3, we're going to talk about dishonored checks and electronic banking. So we have 3 learning objectives. Complete record keeping for a dishonored check. You should be able to journalize an electronic funds transfer, and you should be able to journalize a debit card transaction. Okay, so recording a dishonored check on a check stub. A dishonored check means a check that a bank refuses to pay. So there are a lot of reasons that you might have a dishonored check. The most popular reason, though, is because of non-sufficient funds. So when we talk about insufficient funds, that means that the person that wrote the check does not have enough money to cover the check. So let's say that they wrote a check for $100 and they only had $50 in their account. Okay, so that would be insufficient funds. A non-sufficient check is also known as an NSF check. So we do need to record that. So when we look here, we have our balance brought forward, and then we have this dishonored check. So what happens is when we have a business and we accept a check, so here we have a check for $225, as soon as we accept that check, that is our responsibility. So now when they don't have enough money to cover that check, we are out that money. We have to cover that money ourselves. So to put that in, we're going to put that as an other because we don't have anything to label it in here. So we're going to put it under the other, and we're going to label it dishonored check. And we're going to put that for the total amount. So this is also going to include the service fee. So actually, I don't know how much the service fee is right now, but that check wasn't $225. Usually the service fee is around $30. So we have to end up covering that as well. And then we're going to calculate and record the new subtotal. So we're going to subtract those two. Okay, remember, this is something that's going to come out of our account. So we're going to subtract that from our subtotal. Okay, so now we have to journalize it. So on August 29th, it says that we received notice from the bank of a dishonored check from Valley Landscaping, $185 plus a $40 fee for a total of $225, memorandum number 52. So it's saying here that Valley Landscaping wrote us a check for $185. We took the check and they didn't have enough money. So we're having to cover that $185, but then we also have to pay for the fee of not having enough funds. So we have to pay that $40 fee too. So really, we are in charge of covering $225. So what we're going to do is we're going to increase that accounts receivable for $225. Now Valley Landscaping owes us $225 because we're covering that for them. And then we're going to decrease our cash because we're using our cash to cover that amount. Okay, so remember, we're going to put in our debit first. We're going to start with our date. We're going to put accounts receivable, Valley Landscaping. We're going to put in that debit amount. And then we're going to credit cash for $225. And then we're going to put our source document, which is memorandum 52. Electronic funds transfer. Electronic funds just means that it's all computerized. So there's no checks, there's no currency, there's no paper documents. Everything is transferred electronically. So EFT is often what we will call it for short, electronic funds transfer. Here it says on June 5th, we paid cash on account to Merniac Enterprises, $380 using EFT. So what we're saying here is that we didn't use a check, we didn't use cash, we just did electronic. Now, how did we pay for that though? Even though it's electronic, we are still using our cash. It's still going to come out of our checking account. Okay, so what we're going to do is we are going to decrease that accounts payable for $380, and we're also going to decrease our cash. Okay? Even though we didn't give them physical cash, this money is going to come out of our cash account. Okay, so we're going to start with our date. We're going to then put our debit account, so accounts payable, and we're going to debit it for $380, and then we're going to credit cash for $380, and the last step is we're going to put our source document, memorandum 18. Okay, we should all be familiar with a debit card. I'm assuming majority of you have a debit card, have used a debit card. That is just a bank card that you get from the bank that will automatically deduct the amount of a purchase from your checking account. So when we talk about journalizing a debit card transaction, here it says that we purchase supplies, $75 using a debit card. Notice this is the same transaction that we would do if we paid with cash. Because this $75, even though we used a debit card, it's still coming out of our cash account. So we're going to credit cash and we're going to debit our supplies account. Start with our date. Then we're going to put in our debit account, supplies with our debit amount. Then we're going to credit cash. And last thing is our memorandum 21. All right, go ahead. It says audit your understanding. Number 1, list 6 reasons why a bank may dishonor a check. So we talked about 1 in this slide. So go ahead and look in your book and see if you can find the other 5 reasons. Okay, so number 1, the check appears to be altered. So let's say that maybe the number that is written does not equal or does not match the number that is written in Word. So they might dishonor that check. Or the signature on the check does not match the signature on the signature card. A signature card is something that the bank has on hold. So when you go and open up a bank account, you actually have to sign a signature card so they can compare your signature when you cash a check. The amounts written in figures and in words do not agree. I guess that goes with number 1. Number 1 would also be like if it looks like we added an extra 1 in there or something, or if it looks like we changed the name. The check is post-dated. So that means that if we wrote it for a later date, let's say that I didn't write it until I put November 3rd on that. That means that I cannot cash that check until November 3rd. The person who wrote the check has stopped payment on that, so that is an option. If I write a check, I am able to cancel that check and stop the payment on that check. And then the last one, the account of the person who wrote the check has insufficient funds. So this is the one that we talked about during the slideshow. Question number 2, what account is credited when electronic funds transfer is used to pay cash on account? Cash. Remember, don't let the electronic funds transfer part trick you. We are still using cash. It's just not that we are giving them, we aren't giving them physical cash. Question number 3, what account is credited when a debit card is used to purchase supplies? Okay, hopefully you got that too. That should just be cash. Again, debit card, EFT, they are still cash. Okay, that ends the 5-3 lecture.